And now to present our 2025 Founders Award, please welcome Todd Morgan.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight and for your generosity. As honorary event co-chair, it is my privilege to shift our focus to this incredible life of my friend, Jack Suzar. If you'll permit me, I'd like to share a few words about Jack. I first got a chance to work with Jack nearly 30 years ago. He was 15 years old. No, I'm just kidding. When he joined my firm, Bel Air Investment Advisors. He has always impressed me in business, but I'm even more impressed with Jack as a person. Whether as chair of the City of Hope, the LA Phil, or GVS SoCal, Jack's heart is always focused on helping others. As some of you know, I am the past chair of Los Angeles Jewish Federation, so I am familiar with SoCal JVS for a long time. Probably not as long as Jack, but for more than 2 decades I've been moved by the impact of JVS SoCal on people, whether they are new arrivals, those are public assistants, veterans like Jack, or those seeking a better life through career training and job preparedness programs. It is an honor to be here to recognize and celebrate Jack and his passion for those who benefit from JVS SoCal programs and services. Now I'd like to invite our colleague, Kevin Phillip, to share a little bit more about our friend and partner, Jack.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Todd, for introducing me, and thank you for creating a firm where I got to meet Jack Suzar. Good evening, everyone. It is wonderful to see such incredible support for JVS and tonight's honorees. For the last 23 years, I've had the great privilege to call Jack Suzar a mentor, business partner, confidant, and dear friend. He first convinced me to join him in his endeavors at Bel Air Investment Advisors with one particular phrase. I don't know if we will be the biggest team at Bel Air, but I promise you that we will have the most fun. True to his word, despite dot-com crashes, the great financial crisis, fast evolving and changing political landscapes, and COVID, Jack has always found a way to bring a stabilizing joy to all who are lucky to be in his company. Together with his dear wife, Linda, the laughter and entertainment never cease. If you ever engage Jack in a conversation about work, he will most likely refer to himself humbly as a former accountant. Ironically, his time and success in wealth management matches or exceeds that of his service in the accounting industry. Jack is never one to boast about himself, an unusual trait for a wealth manager. I kick him under the table sometimes. He won't tell you how he built up an international consulting division for one of the major accounting firms, or how he also ran the entire accounting division across all of Asia. He won't mention that during his attempt in the late 90s to retire, he served on the board of City of Hope and ended up volunteering to serve as their CEO while they looked for a permanent one. And that during his time as a volunteer CEO, he dramatically enhanced City of Hope's endowment by winning royalty rights from a shared research project with a major pharmaceutical company. He won't easily tell you of the care, time, and resources he has devoted and causes that are beyond count, unless, of course, it can help the cause or the people. Watching Jack these last several months, we have all seen him beam with pride of all of your support and all of your financial contributions to JVS, a cause extremely near and dear to his core. I remember first learning about JVS because of Jack, and continue to be so inspired by its cause. For what better way is there to help someone than to help them develop new skills for a better job? Jack leads first with kindness and generosity in literally all he does. He is so proud of his two sons, Aaron and Noah, and holds Linda always in the center of his universe. He is an inspiration to us all. While we are all truly blessed to know Jack, we should all be so fortunate to be even half the man that Jack is. And with that, I would like to introduce my dear friend, Jack Suzar.
You know, I really don't have a speech. It's more about talking about things that, after I give some acknowledgement to folks, about how I was lucky over the years to be helped by certain people. And in that regard, I've used it to help others. So, but before I start, there's no question, Linda May, my wife, with her encouragement and support, and making sure, kicking me a few times to be here tonight. I can't thank her enough for all that she's done. It's been incredible. Thank you, my dear. Jerry and Terry Cole, oh my God. Wherever you go, you bring lightness and happiness to the world. Thank you so much. Susan Koenig, thank you. And for my friends and family and partners at Bel Air Advisors, where, as you've heard, I've been for some time, who I'm blessed to be with, thank you as well. Todd, Kevin, and Jeff, it's kind of hard to follow you all, but I'll give it the best I can. I'm not going to talk for too long. I want to thank my family that is here from Oregon, Palm Beach, and my son Noah, who came in from England. But actually, the real reason I think he came is we're going to the Yankee-Dodger game tomorrow night, which I have to share with you, for those of you that know me, why I'm such a baseball Dodger fan. It's kind of interesting what happened. My dad was a professional ball player in the minor leagues, so from my early youth, I was involved playing baseball. But in high school, I had a couple of interesting experiences that I think kind of set the tone, just as an aside. So we were practicing one year. I was in my first couple of years of high school baseball, and some guy came back to work with us who had recently been drafted by the Brooklyn Dodgers, who I found out had played on the Van Nuys High School team that won the city championship a few years ago. They asked, he was a pitcher, they said, "Jack, would you mind catching?" Batting practice. Well, I just want you to know, his name was Don Drysdale. And my left hand has never been the same. And then the other instance that kind of hooked me was my next door neighbor, who I'll share with you a little bit later, some of the things he's done for me, knew I was a big ball fan. And the Brooklyn Dodgers had just moved to Los Angeles. And he said, "You know, I have 3 tickets to this exhibition game in the Coliseum. Would you want to go?" And my dad and I, of course, said, "Absolutely." Well, after climbing 92 steps to the top of the stadium, out of breath, he turns to us and says, "By the way, I want to apologize. Something I should have known about before we got here. The pitcher tonight, some guy they just found, is wild, not sure he's going to make it. His name was Sandy Koufax." I've been hooked ever since. So those of you that know in my office that I talk about it, you know now you know why. Again, people that have made this so successful, the chairs, Rick and Jim, I can't thank you guys enough. You've made this great event possible. Thank you, thank you. And a couple of interesting thoughts about a couple of JVS people. When I was chair of City of Hope, I met a few people by the name of Alan Levy, now the retired CEO, and Randy Lappin, who then went to JVS. And thankfully, when they got there, they got me more involved, which has really been another wonderful part of my life. So Randy, Alan, thank you so much for what you've done. A bit more, and then I'll get into some other stuff about me. But I want to give a shout out to the Place Called Home folks that are here and the students. Thank you. They are going to be recipients of so much of what you've heard tonight from our various speakers who I just can't give enough thank and recognition to, but they demonstrate what we have been doing for over 94 years at JVS. So thank you all for that. Well, how did I get involved with JVS and other organizations? City of Hope and LA Philharmonic, who is here tonight with all of their staff. Well, I can't tell you how much I enjoy being part of that. So a couple things happened in my youth that kind of interesting. When I was a child, my mom and grandmother used to take me to these potluck dinners for City of Hope. And I couldn't understand, what the heck are we doing this for? And it was all about putting money, nickels, dimes, and whatever in a Folger coffee can to help people get service at City of Hope for free, which really meant a lot to me later in life, as you know. It was big, I got involved. And the other instance was I can't think, about 10 years old, and there was a thing called the Cressus 5 and Dime store on Adams Boulevard, where I lived in West Adams. And we were in there to get an ice cream cone, and I wanted to buy a puzzle for myself. And my dad said, it's too much money, we can't afford it. As we walked out, there was Christmas time, and there was a guy from the Salvation Army in a red kettle. My dad puts 10 bucks in it, and I go crazy. He said, how can you give 10 bucks to something and you wouldn't buy me a puzzle for $1.50? And his answer, which has stayed with me ever since, was, you know what? We're always going to be okay, but these people need our help. We'll be okay. And that has stuck with me forever. So fast forward, I'm getting ready to graduate high school. My parents said, Jack, you really need a full-time job. We need your help to help support the house. So I did, and I'll tell you a little about that in a second. So as I'm getting ready to graduate high school, I'm also, by the way, on weekends, I've now got the job, and I cut lawns in the neighborhood for 25 cents a lawn. My next door neighbor, who was the guy that took us to the first baseball game, Dodgers, comes out and says, where are you going to go to college? And I said, you know what? I'm not going. I have to work. He says, no way. It was a Sunday. He came back Monday morning. It took me to then what was Valley Junior College, paid for my first year and my books, and gave me some extra spending money, and I was hooked. School was something that was really super, super important to me. Well, for the next 8 years, I went to school morning and night and worked during the day. And one of the things I did was hang and paint wooden shutters and installed them in people's homes. And it was interesting. I made more money doing that than my first year as an accountant, which was interesting. But along the way, I joined the Army when I was 23 in the reserves, and I started what was Cal State Northridge. So when I got out of the service, I came back and re-enrolled in college, and I had a counselor who said, you know, we need to find out what you're best at to make sure you have the right major. So I take all these tests, which many of you have done, and the first thing she ruled out was park ranger. She says, I know you love fishing and camping, but I don't think that's for you. She says, you ought to be an accountant. I said, an accountant? That's the craziest thing I ever heard. Well, having said that, I became an accountant and had a 30-year career at what is now BDO, the fifth largest firm in the world, where I later became, as you heard, vice chair in charge of Asia, Western states, and also quite a bit in Europe as well. Great career. But along the way, in my early years, the managing partner of our office called me in and he says, you know, Suzar, you've been here 5 years, might have a chance to make partner. You know, not everybody does, very few. It takes 10, 15 years. But along the way, to really be successful in this community, not being available to show that you've been in the community and you've given back, your certificate really, as a CPA, doesn't mean very much. I said, thank you very much. So what am I working for? He says, you're working for yourself and to be more involved in the community. He handed me a phone number of a guy who, together with several of you here in the room, who I met, that introduced us for over 2 years to a number of nonprofits throughout the Southern California, anywhere from United Way to you name it. It was just so many different places. We had a lot of involvement and fun along the way doing this, and that's where I got introduced to JVS. And as you learned, one of the things they had at the time was called Handcraft Industries. And of all the things that I had been exposed to, what attracted me to it was the fact that they were helping others that really needed help. And I kind of related that a little bit to myself, which I'll share with you now. So it just was an incredible opportunity that I just had to take advantage of. So the thing that probably, I would say, started really making a difference in my life were a couple of experiences that I would say contributed to why I'm standing here today. First was the same fellow that I mentioned to you about getting me to start college, my counselor who chose to help me become involved with becoming an accountant, and then of course this managing partner of my office that got me engaged in the community. It just has really added so many things to my personal life and values that I might never have ever appreciated, and been able to help others understand the importance of being involved. So I would say that, if anything, what I try to do, and I think embarrassing, I have to say, Kevin, thank you for those great words. It's kind of hard to hear some of that stuff, but I've tried to use a lot of this to help others, and that's really how I got here, was through all these various folks helping me along the way. So now as we look at JVS and what it is today, and having helped all these thousands of people over the years, I hope those of you that are learning about JVS for the first time will continue to be involved and show support, much like we did tonight by seeing those of you that have raised your paddles. So I'm going to end this with kind of an interesting comment. I don't know how many of you have ever seen the movie Forrest Gump. Anybody see that movie? All right. Well, Tom Hanks was one of my heroes as he walked across the country doing all that he did. But the most important scene that kind of relates to what I'm going to say now, he was sitting on a bench waiting for a bus, and people kept sitting down, and as they did, he would tell them a story, kind of like what I'm doing right now. So he finally got to the end, and he said something that I'm going to say now. You know, that's all I have to say about that now. Thank you. Enjoy your dinner.
Don't go anywhere. It just happens to be this fine gentleman's birthday today.
Oh my God.
Let's hear it for him, folks. You ready? Here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jack. With a lot of help from Linda May. Happy birthday.